Jerry and Charlie riding through the airwaves, bringing you the heat. Come on, pull your bands, now get up out your seat. They're bringing you all things Mets. They're bringing you all things Mets. They're bringing you all things Mets. Now you're listening to Shea Station.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Shea Station podcast, episode 222. It's Thursday, June 5th, but by the time you're listening to this, it'll be Friday, June 6th. I'm recording this right after the Mets lost a disappointing finale in their 4-game set with the Los Angeles Dodgers to get a split, which is nice, meaning they win the season series against the team that won the World Series last year. So can't be too upset. It's hard to go on the road and win a 4-game set, but the Mets played a pretty sloppy game to lose the final game there. They also swept the Colorado Rockies, like most teams do, although the Rockies just swept the Marlins, so maybe they're playing their best baseball of the year. We're going to talk some ball. I'm Jolly Olive, a.k.a. Jack. Not joining me today is Jerry Blevins. I'm riding solo today, so if you stick around and hang out for this solo pod, I really appreciate you. Jerry's a busy man, can't make every show. We do the best with what we can. I know some people have qualms with our schedule. We try and get one out a week, but we're busy guys with obligations. So we appreciate y'all when we're able to put something out and you listen to it. If you enjoyed today's episode and any other episode, consider subscribing to our YouTube channel, leaving a like on these videos. It always helps out to get some engagement. If you're listening on a podcast app, leave us a rating, leave us a review. We appreciate all that good stuff. The Mets have been playing good baseball in the month of June. Getting to play some important teams leading up to this Dodgers series definitely helped out with that. But we're seeing some positive trends, specifically ones that stand out without going into numbers. Pete Alonso looks like he's mashing the cover off the baseball again. Juan Soto shuffling with a lot of swagger in Los Angeles, which is pretty cool. He's got an OPS over 1,000 in the month of June. But this final game in LA was tough. Some late defensive woes, some costly bullpen misfires cost us a game there. The Mets lost for only the third time in their last 12 games, so 9-3 in their last 12. It's tough to be too upset about the way the Mets have been playing baseball recently, especially because, in early May, the team looked like they were losing their rhythm a little bit, and now it looks like it's fully back, which is cool to see. They got an upcoming series with the Rockies once again, which is super nice. In Coors Field, we'll see how that goes, because who knows what happens in Coors Field. It's like the parallel universe of MLB. Kind of feels like no rules apply in Coors Field. Every time we go there, it feels like it's just a fever dream. So hopefully the Mets can come away with a series win and maybe another sweep there. That'd be nice. Minimum to go 5-1 against Rockies on the year. Let's start with that Rockies series really quick. Get this out of the way because I know the meat and potatoes of this pod is going to be that Dodgers set. There's honestly not a ton to say. The starting pitchers got to have a lot of fun against the Rockies offense, and this feels mean-spirited because I feel for Colorado fans. Rockies fans are some of the most passionate in the sport. They crush attendance every year. They deserve a better product than the one they're getting. But the Mets just put on a display of better team versus worst team in MLB history, potentially. David Peterson had an awesome start in game 1, 5 2/3, 1 earned run. Again, didn't really look like he had his absolute best stuff, but it didn't matter against an offense like this. And then Reed, Garrett, and Edwin Diaz just closed this thing out. Diaz, this was in the middle of his hitless streak, a hitless streak that did come to an end in the finale of this series. And Reed's ERA got down to 0.73 in this game, which is really cool. The big offense in this game was Francisco Lindor, 3 for 4, 2 home runs, another leadoff home run. Not the only leadoff home run we'll talk about in this pod today, which is very, very cool. Game 2 was the Kodai Senga show. He gave up that leadoff home run to Ezequiel Tovar and then retired 17 straight, which was the longest streak in his career, which is very, very cool. Juan Soto got a home run, so that's nice. And he'd home run again in the finale as well. All three of the big three hit a home run in the same game for the first time in this finale on Sunday. I was in the stadium for this one, so it was a very cool moment to be a part of. Lindor, Alonso, Soto all hit a home run for the first time as Mets teammates. Fun stat here from Anthony DiComo as well. Alonso and Lindor have now homered in the same game 28 times as Mets teammates, which is the most by any duo in Mets history, displacing Howard Johnson and Darryl Strawberry, which is pretty cool. That's like two big names of Mets lore that Pete Alonso and Francisco Lindor have unseated. So a very cool stat there by Anthony DiComo. Also, this was another Francisco Lindor home run, which means it's another Mets win because the Mets have an ongoing streak that has now reached 27 of wins when Francisco Lindor hits a home run. 27-0 in their last 27. This got them to a season high 15 games over 500. They went 7-2 on a very impressive homestand. That was Dodgers, then White Sox, then Rockies. Biggest thing in the finale here, Clay Holmes goes 7 innings. Career high 7 innings. He's gone 6 or more innings in 6 of his last 8 starts. I did not have Clay Holmes becoming the workhorse of this staff. Did you? I certainly did not. 7 innings, 3 hits, 3 earned runs, no walks, 3 strikeouts, and of course, the win to get the sweep over the Colorado Rockies. One last shout before we get to this Dodgers series. Edwin Diaz wins National League reliever in the month of May. 11 1/3 innings, no earned runs, 3 hits, 4 walks, 14 strikeouts, 5 for 5 in save opportunities. He did give up a hit in the save in the Sunday game, but overall, a dream month from Edwin Diaz, and something that the Mets absolutely needed as a narrative in the 2025 season is Edwin Diaz returning to elite form. It certainly appears that way, though he did have a blown save in LA, which we'll talk about. I don't think that he pitched poorly, but we will talk about it. Edwin Diaz, unfortunately, is not invincible. And that gets us to Los Angeles, where the Mets are road warriors, taking on the Dodgers in a 4-game set. I feel like we play a lot of 4-game sets in LA. Game 1, though, I don't know about you guys, I chalked this one up to a clear loss because we were sending up Paul Blackburn, kind of just throwing him into the fire. First start since August of 2024. Blackburn had a weird myriad of injuries. It started with spinal fluid leaking out of him, which is very, very scary. There were some arm injuries along the way there as well, some fatigue issues. He finally makes it back to the mound. And Blackburn's honestly a fun watch because he's not going to strike out the world. He does have like 6 or 7 pitches he brings to the table. He kind of throws the whole kitchen sink at you. He gives me a lot of Chris Bassett. And it's funny because they're both from the Oakland A's, and we traded for them both times. But Blackburn was nails in this game, man. 5 innings, 3 hits, no earned runs, 1 walk, 3 strikeouts. The funny thing is that Blackburn started behind hitters a ton in this game. And when you're facing an offense like the Dodgers, if you give them any edge, that's usually a death sentence, especially if you're doing it consistently like Blackburn was. But instead, he retires Ohtani every time he faces him, only allows 4 base runners on the day. Unfortunately, he does get a no decision in this game, but 5 shutout innings in his return. The Mets also said that he might be resigned to a bullpen role moving forward, which is pretty surprising because they've wanted to do this 6-man for quite a while now. But Paul Blackburn gets the tip of my cap, a cap that I am not currently wearing, for an absolutely great return outing. I would have taken 4 innings, 2 earned runs from him. I would have been happy with that, let alone 5 shutout innings. So kudos to Paul Blackburn. Long road back. Probably, in my opinion, the most surprising performance of any player in this 4-game set. So shout out to him. The offense got going with yet another Francisco Lindor leadoff home run. For those who haven't seen the Dodgers broadcast clip, I implore you to go hunt for it. It's very funny. Joe Davis on the Dodgers, who does a great job, he's your national broadcaster these days as well, was regarding the Francisco Lindor Mets winning streak when he hits a home run. And then the very next pitch, Lindor hits a home run. And Joe Davis just goes, uh-oh, which is pretty funny. Lindor now has 26 career leadoff home runs, which ranks 8th among all active players. George Springer's the leader there. The number's high, 60. I mean, I know he was leading off a ton for those really good Astros teams, but 60 leadoff home runs is so many. So it's going to be hard to see Lindor catching him. That's 34 more leadoff home runs, but we'll take him when we can get him. 6 of those leadoff home runs have come this season. He's 4th in Mets history now with 8 leadoff home runs overall. Curtis Granderson still has that franchise record, but Lindor's only 1 away, so he's going to catch him very soon. That's very cool. This game was a back and forth affair. The Mets were hitting Dustin May early, but they were getting runners on and then not bringing them in. Brendan Nimmo got a big hit in the 5th inning, a ground rule double. Could have been a 2-run double. The Dodgers were the benefactor of an unfortunate bounce there. And 3-0 would have felt a lot better than 2-0. because this was an early bullpen game. Max Kranick comes in the 7th inning after Huáscar Brazoban does his usual thing where he loads the bases with walks and then gets a big strikeout to escape it. I posted a compilation on my Twitter of Huáscar Brazoban escaping bases loaded 2-out jams. There's been 4 of them now this season. A lot of them self-induced. So that's something to keep an eye on. A Brazoban inning is either the easiest inning ever or the most stressful inning ever. And that's what I've learned, but the numbers are good. The numbers don't lie. Max Kranick did come in the 7th, like I mentioned before. Shohei Ohtani hit an absolute piss missile off Kranick. Kranick's stuff looked good. He just sat a curveball, the low middle zone, and that's just Ohtani's hot zone. Like, he loves that low pitch that he can kind of just lift because he's so strong, and he's got kind of an uppercut swing that he can adjust. But he hit an absolute nuke to make it 2-1. Ohtani, we're not going to mention him a ton in this pod. I mean, we're going to mention the fact that the Mets were able to neutralize him, and there's a lot of numbers going around about how, Ohtani's numbers against the Mets this year are paltry compared to his numbers against every other team. So it's very cool that the Mets have a game plan that seems to be working time and time again against Shohei Ohtani. It did not work here, and that made it a 2-1 game late in this one. Ryan Stanek got the 8th inning. I was pretty nervous. We know from May has had a tough time holding leads for the New York Mets in high leverage spots. He got through the 8th inning, so it's 2-1 entering the 9th. The Dodgers end up rallying against Edwin Diaz. Shohei Ohtani hit a deep sac fly that could have been potentially a game-winning extra base hit. Stayed in the park. Nimmo made the play, and then Diaz is able to strike out Teoscar Hernandez. So we go to extra innings. Historically, if you're a baseball fan, you know the new extra inning rule very much favors the road team, and the Mets were able to take advantage of that, but not from the guy that you might expect. Francisco Alvarez, who hadn't had an RBI in 57 at-bats. He hadn't had a run batted in since May 4th. Almost a calendar month with semi-regular playing time. Alvy hadn't put in a run batted in. He gets a big double to kick off the 10th inning here, which is huge because he essentially reset the ghost runner, except now you have the lead. So the pressure almost feels like it immediately comes off the Mets offense to produce here. They go ahead 3-2. Lindor comes up with a single of his own, 4-2. I should mention, this is against Tanner Scott, who the Mets continue to bat around. I know that he was a very coveted relief pitcher on this free agent market from last year. The Mets have made him look very human. He was the Ohtani Slayer, a big piece of that Padres run last year, but it seems like every time he comes into the game, Mets fans start licking their chops because they know this offense just sees him well. That fastball looked pretty flat. I don't know what it is, but those Mets hitters, they have something on, someone who's considered to be one of the better relievers in the game right now. So very, very cool there. The Mets go ahead 4-2. We go to the bottom of the 10th. I know things are thin. I know that Reed Garrett was unavailable. Jose Castillo starts the 10th. Granted, it's Freddie Freeman and Max Muncy due up first and third in the order. Castillo walks Freeman, gives up a single to Andy Pages. So it's first and second, nobody out. Dodgers are a base hit away from tying the game, a double away from winning the game. It feels over. And this one feels tough because, you could steal game one of the big 4-game series. You have all the momentum going forward. All you really need is a split here. This is a game you don't want to drop. Jose Butto starts warming up. We know about his numbers with inherited runners. They've been better as of late, but again, I'm up late. It's 1:30 a.m. I'm thinking, just let this end, man. One way or the other, but let me go to bed. Castillo strikes out Muncy, and this is an underrated moment in the entire series, let alone this game. If Muncy's able to get a walk there, because later in the series, Muncy has a 2-homer game. He looked really good this entire series, and he always looks good against the Mets. The strikeout was massive. Castillo made a gutty pitch. Mendoza takes him out right after. Butto comes in for Smith and Edman. Smith flies out, and then Edman hits a pretty sharp ground ball, but it goes right back to Butto. Fields it cleanly, flips to first. The Mets get game one. They win the Paul Blackburn game, which is so big because I chalked it up to a guaranteed loss. So this was a big first game. I think that was a good tone setter. Definitely was hairy. a lot of base runners. In fact, let's just go through it really quick. Brazaban, Kranick, Stanek, Diaz, Castillo, and Buteau all pitched to combine for 5 innings in this one. They gave up 3 runs, only 2 of them earned, but 3 walks and 6 hits in 5. So 9 base runners in 5 innings, and yet they're able to navigate around all of that to get a key 4-3 win in the opener of this series. This was a really fun, just baseball, a really good game. Like if I'm a third-party fan and I'm tuning into this game, I think I'm having a pretty good time. The Mets and Dodgers, they play good ball. It almost feels like an NLCS rematch is inevitable. Maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, but the Mets are playing good ball right now. This led us to Game 2. Tyler McGill on the bump against Clayton Kershaw. For those who don't know, and if you're a Mets fan, you probably do know this, Clayton Kershaw has never lost to the Mets. He's been in baseball for 18 years. He's never lost to the Mets. He's 11-0 entering this game. Unfortunately, that would not change. It didn't help that Tyler McGill has a nightmare first inning on the road, an RBI double from Freddie Freeman, a 2-run homer from Max Muncy. This was definitely a Max Muncy game. But the Mets, like I mentioned before, not going to roll over easily in this one. Juan Soto gets involved. A 2-run homer in the 4th inning makes it a 4-3 game. A 5-game extra base hit streak, the longest of his career, which is very, very cool. Something to keep an eye on. Juan Soto heating up in the month of June. Hopefully he can bring that home to Citi Field and we can get some fun highlights. But as I mentioned before, this was a Max Muncy 2-homer game. It made it difficult for the Mets to compete in this one. They did take the lead briefly in the 5th inning off Kershaw, knocked him out of the game. Kershaw wasn't the reason the Dodgers won in this one. So once again, it becomes a battle of the bullpens. McGill, by the way, gives us 6 innings. I should have mentioned that. After a really horrible first inning, McGill, I think, retired at some point 8 in a row. Ends up going 6 innings, 4 earned runs, 1 walk, 7 strikeouts, the 1 homer to Max Muncy. So you know what? It's not a good outing, obviously. And if you're a Mets fan, you can definitely be frustrated with Tyler McGill, especially considering Blackburn comes off the IL yesterday, gives you 5 shutout innings. But I do think McGill giving you 6 at least gives you a chance in this game, and it helps preserve the bullpen for the rest of the series because when that first inning's happening, I'm thinking, okay, I guess Brandon Waddell is going to come in the 3rd inning. They're going to ring him out for 5 innings, hopefully just get through and preserve the bullpen and kind of just punt this game. But he gives them 6. He keeps it competitive. I think it was good for McGill's psyche, too, to not completely get blown out in this game because when you're facing the Dodgers, it's very easy for an inning to just balloon and a rally to keep on going and going and going because they have a lineup that really doesn't let up ever. There's no stopping, really. There's no respite. So good on McGill for staying competitive and trying to keep the Mets in this game. Brandon Waddell, as I mentioned before, comes in and pitches the 7th pretty clean. So good for him. That was really the first leverage spot of his career. He got the spot start against the Diamondbacks and then was the mop-up guy against the White Sox. This was his first true test as like, hey, can you be a big league reliever that can help this team? And he did a great job. Line out from Max Muncy was hot off the bat. But other than that, good on Brandon Waddell. That's all I really have to say about that. The more eventful bullpen inning was Reed Garrett, who pitched in the 8th inning. We got an all-time Reed inning. Looked like early goings of last year, the more unpolished version of Reed. It was a walk. It was a passed ball. You have runners on 2nd and 3rd, nobody out. It looks ugly. Freddie Freeman, Teoscar Hernandez, Will Smith coming up. 5-4 game. It looks as though this is going to be the Dodgers at the very least tying it. Except you're wrong. Strikes out Freddie Freeman, gets Teoscar Hernandez on a sharp ground ball, no runs scored. Will Smith strikes out 2. We get an all-time Reed roar. I think the best one of the season. I love the way Reed screams when he gets a big out. It's almost like a demon is exiting his body. Because it's kind of, there's no like wind up. He'll get the strikeout and then he'll just go, ah, like that. If you're watching on YouTube, you got a good visual. So good on Reed. Really, really nerve-wracking but fun outing that like kind of woke me up. Like I was drifting and then Reed was almost blowing it and then he didn't blow it and I was back. What do you guys think of West Coast games? I kind of like them. I can't really do 3 in a row. That was tough. Like if this was a 3-game series and it was 2 10 p.m. games and 1 4 p.m. game, I would have been fine. But I've kind of just been tired the whole week because I've been staying up for these games. It brought us to the ninth inning. I do think Mendoza's execution of the bullpen was good in this game. I thought he used Reed in the right spot there. That was a tougher part of the order. He gave Brazoban the end of the order. The problem is that Max Muncy led off the inning and hit a home run. And it was a nuke. No doubter off the bat. 4 pitches into the inning, the game is tied. This is tough because, honestly, if we're being real, the Mets were going to steal this game. I didn't really think that they should have won this game. They nearly tiptoed around a bunch of disaster innings again, similar to Game 1, and we're in the driver's seat. But unfortunately, the big thing was that no Edwin Diaz in this game. And that, I think, exemplifies how important he is to this team and how kind of worth the contract he's becoming if he's this version of Diaz truly. Brazoban gets the save opportunity. He's kind of been the second guy up. Reed's gotten some saves. Brazoban's gotten some saves. This would have been a big one for him. Gives up the homer to Muncy, and it's so frustrating because he strikes out the next 3 batters. Brazoban's had this exact outing, I think, a couple times this season where he gives up the nuke, I think in a big spot, and then strikes out 3 in a row. He did it against the Cardinals earlier this season. I think Donovan was the one that hit the home run. Dodgers tied in the 9th inning. Tanner Scott comes in again. Soto, Alonso, Nimmo. Strikeout, ground out. So it kind of felt like, okay, this is probably over at this point where our bullpen's decently weak. If you don't score at least 1 in the 10th, it's probably over. And it was. The Dodgers are able to win Game 2 by a final score of 6-5. Another fun game here. A lot of the similar scripts from Game 1, but the Dodgers are able to get the edge here. And another competitive one-run game. A storyline that didn't end up mattering in this game, but was all the talk leading into Game 2, was Ronnie Mauricio getting promoted and getting the start in this game. That's because Mark Vientos pinch hit in Game 1, came into the game, was running out of ball to first base, strained his hamstring. We later learned it's not a severe strain. He's going to be resting for about 10 to 15 days, and then he'll get a minor league rehab stint. You never want players to get injured, obviously. I'm going to lead this off by saying that. But the fact that Vientos is going to get 2 weeks to reset his mentality and then get a rehab stint in the minor leagues. Bear in mind, Vientos doesn't have a minor league option, so it's not like the Mets had an option to send him down. This is kind of best case scenario. You never want a guy to get hurt, but now the Mets are able to get him down to AAA to get some pitching that's, not major league quality. Hopefully he can get his confidence back up and come back and be the guy that we saw last year, because the Mets are going to need him. The Mets really don't have a lot of DH production going on right now. Vientos was losing playing time. Hopefully, this 2-week, 3-week respite can be exactly what he needs to get his season on track. Because remember, the Vientos party didn't really start until June last year anyway. So it would be around the same time this year. Maybe that's wishful thinking. I don't know. Mauricio comes up. He goes 0 for 4 in this game. Honestly, looked very outmatched this series. A lot of really ugly chases. Played defense fine, but ended up not really being a storyline in this entire series. But hopefully in Colorado, Ronnie Mauricio can have some fun, because if he runs into one at Coors Field, that thing might go a long way. Game 3 of this series was so much fun. 2-man show. And the 2-man show was Alonso and Canning. Not really 2 last names that go together, but Pete Alonso. I don't really know what happened in May. It didn't really look like the approach changed all that much. I just think the swing decisions got a little bit worse. Maybe Pete was in his own head. He ended the month of May with an OPS under 700, and then as soon as the calendar turned to June, he looks exactly like the guy he was in April, except he's hitting a lot more home runs, which is really fun. Alonso has a big 2-homer day, now has the National League lead with 53 runs batted in. He had 10 RBIs in 6 games against the Dodgers at the end of this one, which is wild. And he now is tied for the most multi-homer games in Mets history with Darryl Strawberry. He passed David Wright for that accolade, which is very cool. The second home run that Alonso hit, and who did he hit it off? It was like the last man in the Dodgers bullpen. Ryan Lutos, not familiar with his game. I think he got sent down right after this one. He went hit by pitch, 6-pitch walk to Juan Soto, and then Pete Alonso hit maybe the farthest home run of his career. I don't have the numbers up. But oh my God, that thing went into the pavilion in Dodger Stadium, which is like 20 rows up, and it like wasn't close. Alonso, and he did the thing where he grabbed the barrel right after, which I love. There's two things. If Lindor hits a home run off you and then hits that like 2-leg stance where he kind of like rests his shoulders and leans back, you know it's gone. If Pete Alonso hits a ball off you and then he immediately grabs the barrel after, you know it's gone. And I love that they both have like their home run signatures. So Alonso was all the offense in this one. Griffin Canning was all the pitching. I mean, this was... Correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like every time we talk about Griffin Canning, we say that this was his best outing of the season. But this was his best outing of the season. Absolutely toying with the top of the Dodgers lineup, holding them at bay completely. He gets the 6th inning. He strikes out Freddie Freeman. He punched out Shohei Ohtani a couple times. 6 innings, no earned runs, 3 hits, 1 walk, 7 strikeouts. Remarkable stuff. And like walked off the mound with a little bit of swagger after getting Ohtani that last time. Just a really fun win, a clean win, which was super nice after the roller coaster, seesaw, teetering back and forth that was Game 1 and Game 2 in the series. The Mets just get a clean one in this one, 6-1 final, and they clinch the season series over the Dodgers. Who knows if that'll matter? I think it'll only matter if these two teams tie with the same record at the end of the season. It'll come down to that tiebreaker. They lost a couple games they should have won, like Game 4 of this series. Another gritty, ace caliber outing from David Peterson, who had a rough inning in the middle of this one, a 3-run inning where the Dodgers top of the order was doing their thing. It was Ohtani single, Betts double, Will Smith single. Ends up being a 3-run inning for them after the Mets gave Peterson an early lead, but he stays true. He stays composed. Confidence remains high. He gives you 7 innings. His ability to adjust on the fly, recognize his opponent, recognize what's working in his arsenal, and constantly switch things up on his opponent is such a fun watch. He is easily my favorite Mets pitcher to watch right now. I know Kodai Senga has the ERA. I know we just mentioned how good Griffin Canning has been. David Peterson has become almost appointment television for me as a Mets fan. 7 innings, 3 earned runs, 7 hits, 2 walks. It's not the sexiest line, but considering how bad that 4th inning was, you take that to the bank, and once again, David Peterson gives his team a chance to win, which is what aces do, even when they don't have their best stuff. He's now allowed 3 earned runs or less in all 12 of his games started this year, giving your team a chance to win. 2 earned runs or less in 10 of his 12 starts this year. When do we start talking about the David Peterson extension? Comment down below. Should be mentioned as well, against the Dodgers this year, in 2 starts, he threw 14 2/3 innings. 7 2/3, 7. Against the best offense in baseball, arguably. 13 strikeouts to 3 walks. Love David Peterson. Another just awesome outing for him. Another awesome game for Pete Alonso, who hit a nuke off Landon Knack. 3 hits in this game for him. 2 more RBI. 9 RBI in this 4-game series for Pete Alonso. Leads MLB with 55 overall. 3 homers in his last 2 games, 4 homers in June, and 10 homers in 22 games at Dodger Stadium. Pete always talks about how much he loves hitting in LA, how much he loves that ballpark, and he sure shows it whenever we go down. He always comes up with some sort of big hit, and he had a remarkably wonderful series in this one. I'm leading with all the good stuff because I mentioned that Game 1 was probably a game that the Mets shouldn't have won. Game 2 was probably a game that the Mets shouldn't have won, and they didn't win. Game 3 was clean. Game 4 should have been clean. Honestly, if I'm the baseball scriptwriters and I'm analyzing what's happening, I'm saying, oh, the Dodgers won the first 2, the Mets won the last 2, because that's just the way and the trend that these games seem to be going in. Then we saw the May Mets show up in the offense. The Mets were up 4-0, then they were only up 4-3. And in every inning after they got their 4th run, the Mets left ducks on the pond. Let's go through it. Let's relive this horrible, horrible offense and then move on from it forever. Bases loaded in the 4th inning, 1 out. Pete Alonso strikes out. Jeff McNeil flies out. 2 on, 2 out in the 5th inning. Brandon Nimmo lines out to shortstop. 2 on, 1 out. 2nd and 3rd. 6th inning. Jeff McNeil strikes out. Starling Marte gets picked off of 3rd. It's a nice play by Will Smith, but come on, man. The Mets face Jose Urena in the 8th inning. They finally get a run. And, of course, it's Pete Alonso with an RBI single. That makes it 5-3. Peterson exits the game. It's the 8th inning. Reed Garrett comes in. You have to assume Diaz is available for this one. So if Reed can get you 3 outs, you feel like you're probably winning the game. Unfortunately, it's a blow-up outing. The first real Reed blow-up outing in a while. It's something you might have been able to predict because he didn't look sharp in game 1 and was able to game 2, and he was able to tiptoe his way out of that. The Dodgers didn't let him off the hook this time. But again, this was manageable. The Mets had an opportunity to stymie this rally. Andy Pajas is up with 1 out. Runner on third, runner on first. Ground ball hit to Beatty. They get the runner on third hung up in the middle. Beatty double clutches. As soon as I saw him pump fake the throw, I had a bad feeling. Because it's hard to reset your arm angle, and it's almost a mental thing, I feel like. He pump fakes the throw, throws it the second time, spikes the ball to Alvarez. It becomes this weird non-collision at home plate where the ball skips by Alvarez. Reed picks it up, but Alvarez is in the way of home plate. Here comes the runner. Reed tries to tag him over Alvarez, ends up on his butt. Run scores, 5-5 game. Sucks. Super avoidable. They intentionally walk Freddie Freeman, which is a decision I agree with, and then you remember that you're a Mets fan, and who comes up to the plate? The guy who's 0 for 30 in his last 30 opportunities with runners in scoring position, a guy that I believe didn't have a hit in the series before this game, and a guy that has a lot of good memories in your uniform, wearing the blue and orange. Michael Conforto comes up with the big hit to put the Dodgers ahead 6-5 because of course he did. Because of course he did. We go to the 9th inning. Tanner Scott comes in again. We got Tanner Scott in the first game. We didn't get him in the second game. Who's going to win the best of 3? Tyrone Taylor works a decent at-bat but strikes out swinging. Brett Beatty works a horrible at-bat and strikes out looking. Don't look now, but the Brett Beatty heater is over. And we're going to need some better production from him going forward. He did carry this Mets offense for a little bit. He gets a pass here for a little bit, but Beatty's at-bats in the series were not good. The quality of contact, I should say, has gone down. We'll see what comes of that. Keep an eye on that. Francisco Alvarez gets a single. Luis Angel Acuna works a great at-bat. His best at-bat in a long time, and he got the start here because Lindor was hurt. We'll talk about that in a second. But he does fly out to center field, and the Mets lose for the 3rd time in 12 games. It's a tough one. Overall, like I said at the top of this episode, I don't think you can be super upset with the series split on the road against the best team in baseball. It just stinks to think about what this could have been. A 3-4, a series win, a 5-2 season series against the Los Angeles Dodgers. Instead, it's 4-3, and honestly, each one of those losses could have been very easily Mets wins. You're talking about the 13-inning battle in Citi Field where the Mets couldn't buy a hit with runners in scoring position after their bullpen was putting on heroic displays. You have game 2 of this series where Brazaban blows the save but strikes out the next 3. You have to think, if he didn't face Muncy, or he just walked them, maybe they win that game. And then you have this game where Reed Garrett allows more than 1 run in an outing for the first time since September last year. So overall, the Mets are playing good baseball, 9-3 in their last 12. They take down the Dodgers. They reach 40 wins. It stinks that the series ended this way because the Mets haven't had a loss like that where they have embarrassing defense and bad bullpen pitching in a long time, on such a public display like that. So the Mets will head to Coors Field with a little bit of a different roster than the one they entered the Los Angeles series with. That's because Francisco Lindor was hit on the toe in this series and has a broken right pinky toe. He played through it in game 2, but he said that he was playing through a ton of pain. He's day-to-day currently. Carlos Mendoza completely ruled out an injured list stint, so I'm curious to see what comes of that. I honestly don't think we'll see Lindor in this Colorado series. He didn't pinch hit in game 4. He said he was unavailable to do that. I think the Mets will let Acuna and Mauricio get some playing time, let them face, the worst pitching in MLB possible in a stadium where they could really, slug the ball, which is not really going to be their game. I guess that's Mauricio's game for sure, I should say. But I think those two are going to get the majority of playing time. Lindor will probably play his first game back in Citi Field if I had to guess. Maybe I'm completely wrong. Maybe the lineup graphic comes out tonight and Lindor's leading off. Who knows? But honestly, it was nice to see leadoff Nimmo. It was nice to see that for once in a while. I do prefer leadoff Lindor, but it was cool. I'm sure Nimmo was happy about it because I'm sure he misses leading off. That was when he was playing his best ball. Mark Vientos, as I mentioned before, a low-grade strain, 10 to 14 days. Then he's probably going to resume baseball activities, probably get a minor league rehab stint, because why wouldn't the Mets take advantage of that? Max Kranick was optioned to AAA, though I think he's going to be back very soon. This was to just get a fresh arm. He's had kind of a cranky back injury lingering for a little bit here. Gave up the home run to Ohtani. He'll probably be back up soon. Brandon Waddell, though, continues to pitch well. He pitched in Game 4 as well, got a big out to end the rally in the 8th inning for the Dodgers. Speaking of pitching, Sean Manaea and Frankie Montas have begun their road back to the Mets. Manaea, he's going to get a rehab start in Brooklyn today. We'll see how that goes. We'll see how many outings he needs. Could be 2 weeks, could be 3 weeks before we get our ace back on the bump. Although, who is the ace of the Mets? I guess comment down below. What do you think? Is it Senga? Is it Peterson? I don't know. Frankie Montas has been in the middle of his rehab stint, and it has not been going well. And I usually don't care about this kind of thing, but two things stood out to me. So Montas in 3 starts, a couple at AAA. I don't think all were at AAA. 8 1/3 innings, 9 earned runs, 12 hits, 4 homers in 8 1/3 innings, and 5 walks. I don't know. I mean, I know Blackburn's going to go to the bullpen for Montas because Montas was paid starting pitcher money. He's going to be a starting pitcher. This was a move that perplexed a lot of Mets fans when it happened, and he hasn't looked good. So I don't know if it's going to be more seasoning for him, more opportunities on this rehab stint, but it hasn't looked good. So it's definitely something to keep an eye on, and we'll wait for more updates as to when Montas is going to be ready because it's probably going to be before Sean Manaea. The Mets head to Colorado. Let's do some quick probables here. Kodai Senga gets the start tonight. Curious to see how the Ghost Fork fares in the thin air in Denver, but Senga brings in a 6-3 record and a 1.6 ERA. He'll face off against all fastballs Antonio Senzatella, who is somehow in the first week of June 1-10. He reached 10 losses before the Colorado Rockies as a team reached 10 wins, which is remarkable. He's got an ERA over 7, and that's not good. Clay Holmes gets the start in Game 2 with his 3.07 ERA, facing off against Carson Palmquist, who the Mets beat in the finale there. He had easily the best start of any of the Rockies starters. Only finished 4 2/3 innings there. Again, a guy that throws a ton of fastballs despite topping out at like 91, 92. He's got an 8.5 ERA and an 0-4 record. That's not good. Game 3 will be Tyler McGill. This will be the daytime game on Sunday at 3:10 p.m. 4-4 with a 3.7 ERA, facing off against, I guess, the ace of the Colorado Rockies, which is German Marquez and his 6.98 ERA. I never am going to say that you should sweep a series no matter what, especially if you're on the road. I think it'll be disappointing if the Mets don't sweep this team. I know that the Rockies have been playing better ball. They just swept the Marlins, so they're probably feeling a certain type of way. But this is a series that the Mets should absolutely dominate. They played good ball against the Dodgers. Don't let that last inning of Game 4 linger into this one. Just take care of business. Finish this road trip strong, and then get Monday off, which is weird. Monday off day in the middle of baseball season, and head to D.C. to face the Nationals. The Mets are in definitely a softer part of their schedule, but coming up after this National Series, keep an eye on it. We'll play the Tampa Bay Rays, who've been playing decent ball, and then it's time to start facing some division rivals. Phillies and Braves are on the horizon. Braves, by the way, I don't know what that loss was yesterday. 10-4 lead in the 9th inning, and they blow it. This is a version of the Braves we have not seen in a long, long time. They look lost. In fact, let's just do some quick National League East standings. Mets are 39-24 with a game-and-a-half lead over the Philadelphia Phillies, who have been sputtering as of late. Jesus Luzardo specifically, a couple really, really bad starts. They've been playing better teams. You know, they were playing the Rockies and White Sox a ton like we were. The Nationals are in 3rd place, 29-33. They've been playing good ball. It's those guys from the Juan Soto trade that have really been balling out. Mackenzie Gore leads the league in strikeouts. James Wood is the real deal. And C.J. Abrams is putting together another nice offensive season. Atlanta Braves, 27-34. If you take out that 0-7 start, this is still a 500 team, and now they have Acuna and Strider back. So I don't know. I posted this on Twitter a day ago, and I said, when the Mets play the Braves 6 times in the span of 9 days, they're either going to bury them or they're going to wake up the beast. I don't know which one it is. I know historically the Braves own us, But the Mets have a rare opportunity to put this team down even further than they already are. We'll see. Marlins ran out the bottom there at 23-37. That is what's been going on in the Mets world. I thank you so much for listening to today's somewhat brief episode of Shea Station. Don't got too much more to say. Wish I had Jerry to bounce off of. But if you hung around for this whole ep and you enjoyed it, I really appreciate you, because solo pods are tough, and I hope I did this episode some justice. So thank you for listening. Again, if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to our YouTube channel if you're not already. Leave a like on the video, leave a comment, all that stuff. Interact with the video. It all helps. We really appreciate it. And if you're listening on a podcast app, leave us a rating, leave us a review. Really would appreciate all that stuff. Spread the word. Shea Station. Once a week. We do the best we can, guys. Really appreciate you. Mets, go to Denver. Beat up the Rocks, please. Let's keep things simple. And then go get the Nats in D.C., although they're pesky, so keep an eye out for them. Mets playing good ball, man. Really fun to see. And that'll do it for this episode of Shea Station. I'll see you guys next time. We'll see you guys next week. Jerry will be back in the fold. LFGM.
Shea Station. Jerry and Charlie. Shea Station. Jerry and Charlie. Thank you all for coming. Hope you enjoyed the show. We will see you next time, where we'll be back below.
Shea Station.